Consider a 26-year-old woman with no history of psychosis or mania. Her mental clarity dissolves into static as she uses an AI chatbot extensively. This heavy interaction leads to a full psychotic break, resulting in her immediate hospitalization. In the controlled environment of the psychiatric ward, she receives antipsychotic medication and is cut off from the chatbot. Within days, the psychosis resolves completely. This timeline reveals a chilling correlation. She leaves the hospital, stopping her medication. The moment she resumes using the chatbot, symptoms return, requiring a second hospitalization. The pattern suggests the AI acts as a literal on-off switch for severe mental illness. Modern society views artificial intelligence as a harmless extension of a search engine or word processor. Standard clinical models view mental illness as the result of internal, pre-existing risk factors that a patient already carries. But we are now seeing the potential for induced mental illness, where an external variable artificially manufactures a psychiatric crisis in a healthy brain. AI represents a variable capable of hacking human psychology through sheer, sustained interaction. This phenomenon mirrors patterns seen in the emergency room at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. Doctors there dealt with the rise of K2, a synthetic, lab-grown form of marijuana that produced erratic, dangerous side effects. Patients would arrive violently psychotic or suicidal while the substance was in their system, only to return to their normal selves once the drug wore off. AI use is showing a similar temporal connection, where a severe mental state is induced during use and disappears the moment the user stops. If this behavioral pattern holds, managing AI usage is no longer about screen time. It is a form of clinical detox. Tech executives often argue that their products are safe, suggesting that these tragedies only occur in a pre-existing vulnerable population. Making that claim requires specific data. To know who is vulnerable, a company would first have to screen the private psychiatric histories of every single user on their platform. They would then need to run randomized clinical trials to measure how their algorithm influences homicidal or suicidal ideation across different groups. Silicon Valley currently lacks the medical data and the regulatory oversight required to prove their products are clinically safe. When faced with these medical complexities, founders often retreat into mental gymnastics, treating their algorithms as simple commodities to avoid the burden of clinical responsibility. Instead of conducting internal medical research, leadership relies on media reports from the New York Times to discover if their products are causing harm. It is impossible to claim a product only hurts vulnerable people when the manufacturer refuses to measure who is actually at risk. Relying on the news cycle for safety means there is no proactive protection for the average consumer. This leaves a silent population of users developing delusions and extreme isolation, who haven't yet reached the threshold of a headline-grabbing tragedy. We are in the middle of a massive, unregulated psychological experiment, and we cannot afford to wait decades for the final results. Large language models are powerful, untested behavioral modifiers that can alter a user's perception of reality. You must aggressively monitor your own interactions and watch for the early signs of detachment before the symptoms escalate.